There's a hair on my microphone.
Had a hair on microphone. With a hair in a microphone.
Microphone.
With a hair in a microphone.
Microphone.
That's
Elon.
a callback
Elon,
to a
bro.
joke that nobody else even...
Macrophone. Get at me.
In the first aeon, I was the Great Spirit. In the second aeon, men knew me as the Horned God, Pangenitor, Panphage. In the third aeon, I was the Dark One, the Devil. In the fourth aeon, men knew me not, for I am the Hidden One. In the fifth aeon, I appeared before you as Baphomet, the god before all gods who shall endure to the end of the earth. In this new aeon, I appear to you as CMN.
Imagine that there is a brilliant white light just above.
Is commentary on the magic art.
In the years of the primal force, in the dawn of terrestrial birth.
Oh, that was very educational.
Now magic will take place. Don't be fooled by what I just said.
All right.
Can we actually start the episode now, please?
All right, welcome everybody. I'm Socialized Medicine Kennedy, and this is Chaos Magic News, the only podcast that makes its own gravy. As always, I'm joined by my psychedelic co-host, Alex Gray, but with an A instead of an E. You were right. That is such a bad joke. I don't know why I supported it.
Yeah, I feel like a real tool for making that joke.
I know the pieces fit.
You know, it's a shame as someone who very much enjoys Alex Gray as an artist and as a mystical visionary or whatever you want to call him. I don't like Tool at all. I don't dislike them, but I don't care for Tool. So it's weird that they're joined at the hip that way.
People that are really into Tool are like a certain type of person. Like they're all just like 3 hairs too intense for things that don't matter that much. They're the kind of homie that like takes their shirt off when someone wants to fight them.
Yeah, that's incredibly accurate, I think.
And it's a Tool shirt because it is definitely a Tool shirt. Anyway.
All right.
How you doing? How you doing this week?
You know, it's been ups and downs lately, but I'm doing pretty good right now. How are you?
I'm good. Well, just to get it out of the way, we wanted to talk about changes to the upload schedule. And I know what you're all thinking. What uploads? But that's what we're trying to fix. The reality of the situation is that the podcast itself takes up a little more time than we can get away with at the moment. And it's not so much the recording, it's just the editing. Editing is just such a huge chunk of my personal time, and it's been detrimental to the other aspects of CMN that we want to actually get out there.
Honestly, between running the social media, which isn't super involved, but it does take time out of the day, and then doing the podcast and then trying to make sure all of our ducks are in a row just on that, it really does cut into our ability to, one, find worthwhile things to talk about in the episodes, because we're doing all this on top of maintaining our day-to-day lives where we both have full-time jobs and yada yada.
And magic practices.
And magic, yeah. Nobody does magic. Anybody who says they practice, they're lying. So between our day-to-day lives, making sure that all of the socials are covered and that the podcast is actually getting put out, we're just looking at this relatively empty main site where it's like, shit, we're supposed to have articles, right?
Yeah.
We said there would be articles. And there's things that we actually do want to write and talk about and get up there. And then also finding other people to interview, finding worthwhile discussions to have in the occult sphere, where at the end of the day, we're two yahoos making a lot of jokes and accidentally being insightful if we're lucky and the moon is full. But there are some things that we feel like are worth bringing up to people. And if we want to have time to work on those, some of the yucks have to take a hit. So
right. So this is the
we're-
last episode of the CMN. No, I'm kidding. Please don't stop. Don't stop.
Bro,
we'll be-
listeners, it's done. This internet thing was a fad. Throw your phone into the nearest lake.
No, but we're going to be moving episode releases to bi-weekly, which will help because then it will be a regular release schedule. We'll be putting them out probably Wednesdays. We'll update you on that once we have that going fully. There'll be something on the site and on the Facebook and probably the Insta. And we're going to have articles being published weekly because the lack of time I spent editing will give me time to actually write. Thank God.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be moving all of our interviews to a monthly basis, which is good because it's been a couple months since we've had interviews put out, but there are also a ton of them just sitting in the file that says to edit. So, and God help,
we did
editing the interviews takes so much more time. Well, and we did get the DKMU article, the interview, but that was a text interview.
Yeah, it was a text. It was all text, but still very good. You should check it out.
Yeah, honestly, if you haven't read it, it's probably the best thing we've had on the site yet.
When we do get a chance, probably not this episode, but maybe next episode, I kind of want to use that interview as a springboard to have more discussions about the DKMU and sort of the greater context of it. So now's your chance to read it before we start talking about it. And you're like, I didn't follow any of this.
What's this Donkey Kong monkey unit you're talking about?
The Donkey Kong monkey unit.
They're going bananas. Well, and with that, that's going to be what passes for our intro discussion this week because we have a lot of news to talk about. Can you believe it, folks? We have actual occult news.
Actual occult news that isn't just like, oh, so-and-so doesn't like so-and-so. There's like actually, there's things to talk about.
Well, I don't know. Some of it, a little bit of it is so-and-so doesn't like so-and-so, but they have greater implications.
To someone else's so as well, though, because we just don't like anyone.
Yep. So with that, in the quickest we've ever gotten to it, what's in the news?
What's in the news?
What is in the news? Well, the first thing I have to talk about it because God damn it. You have all seen it, so we're going to have to talk about it. China lost its balloon. Poor old Xi Jinping was just standing over there going like, this is an awesome balloon. And then it slipped and he's like, no, I hope that doesn't end up anywhere bad.
I feel like there's some joke to be made about because Xi Jinping is Winnie the Pooh and there's the Winnie the Pooh with the balloon. I feel like there's some joke to be made here.
That's literally going to be the cover of the episode now. It's going to be Xi Jinping with the fucking balloon.
Perfect.
Someone on Twitter drew that already, didn't they? Someone had. We're not that original.
Boy, I hope so.
I want to say the way I found out about that was the funniest fucking thing ever in the goddamn world. And it's only funny to me. Oh,
yeah.
But someone just posted it was the song Unmarked Helicopters by Soul Coughing. And he just posted the lyrics, the lyrics are unmarked helicopters hovering, the Lord is coming soon, unmarked helicopters. They said it was a weather balloon, but it just says, but he changed it to, they said it was a Chinese balloon. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So then I just look up Chinese balloon and lo and behold, I get greeted with that. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I remember I woke up to go to work and I saw a message from you at like 3 a.m. It was just a screenshot of the headline and then that. I
was laughing like a hysterical madman.
I'm sure. As of right now, they shot it down and China's response was, you guys are overreacting.
Just chill. It's just a balloon.
It's just a balloon possibly spying on you. I mean, relax.
My favorite thing is
It's
how the
incredible-
U.S. like downplayed it when it first came out. They're like, yes, it is. It is probably a Chinese spy balloon. We don't think it has any really additive. It doesn't have any additive value to spying that their satellites couldn't get. But then, like an hour and a half later, after I saw that, it was unknown explosion over Montana.
Oh yeah, that was a hoax though, which was, I mean, well played to whoever thought that up, because that's like the obvious thing of like I just say, hey, this blew up over Montana, have everybody freak out, and then I drop my link to my clothing shop. You know what will make your World War III go a little better? These awesome T-shirts. Anyway,
So they did shoot
shot
it down though.
Yeah, they shot it down on like a couple hours ago, I believe. So now it's kind of fresh, so we don't know what is going to transpire from all this. I personally don't think a lot is really going to come from it, but I could totally be wrong. I imagine it will be a good deal of people creating a lot of hubbub, probably a lot of folks saying that, no, this wasn't a spy attempt, because if it basically playing on the idea that, like, if this was an attempt at spying, it's really, really incompetent and bad. So there's no way that China would have done it. But I'm a firm believer that everyone lives up to his or her level of incompetence. So this could totally be an attempt at spying, and it's just really bad. It's almost akin to all of the crazy Cold War shenanigans we heard, where they were trying to figure out how to train dolphins and stuff like that.
That's pretty bomb, though. I'll take like spy dolphins over weather balloons all damn day.
Oh, I thought you were making a pun. Ugh. I do also want to keep making a joke where it's like, anytime the government tells you something is a weather balloon, it's not. Or, you know, like I don't know. It's like maybe this is all an elaborate cover, and really they're UFOs.
Oh, it's definitely an alien. China's just playing the game. They're just acting like, oh well, if they shoot it down, well, obviously we have to act mad. That way Zeeborg from planet Klingon doesn't fucking melt our brains.
Now, I haven't seen any updates, but supposedly there's another one of these floating around in South America.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Which just raises further questions.
They're just testing out their balloons. That's all it is. There's like, we got this cool spy balloon. They're like, all right, let's see if it works.
99 Chinese balloons floating in the summer sky.
No, we already sang Tool. We only get one singing moment per episode. Oh, I guess that's all we have to say about the fucking balloon, but that shit's hilarious. We are in the best timeline for ridiculous headlines.
Yeah, it's as funny as it is confusing, honestly. Like, very clearly, this is already causing an international incident, but I think by and large, this is just going to blow over.
From China, with a spy satellite, with a spy camera attached to it.
But we'll see. Maybe by the time this episode's out, we'll already be in the midst of ongoing military conflict.
Who knows?
Hold on, specifically with China in this context, all right? We're always in ongoing military conflict. This is America.
The empire never ended. Okay. Keeping it to Asian continent news. They eat ice cream and read Harry Potter. But these North Korean YouTubers aren't what they seem.
Is this going to North Korea's vested interest in making their country appear like it's not a dystopian hell world?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Well, like there's a pizza restaurant video that was floating around in North Korea where this restaurant is very clearly a front and everything else like that. Then there's like the supermarkets that just seem a little too pristine and set up to give the appearance of, no, there's totally food.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So, I guess the logical conclusion would be like North Korean YouTubers, streamers, influencers Yeah, maybe a North Korean occult-based podcast.
Hey, Supreme Leader, we'll be your propaganda wing. Just let us, just let us get some of those pristine vegetables you got sitting there. Or let's get some
You
eggs.
have a balloon.
Yeah, give the CMN spy balloon. We just put it right over fucking just right over Bohemian Grove all day.
Just beam it right into our Golganuza compound.
Experts say not all is as it seems in these videos, and that the images contain telltale signs that the lives displayed are far from the norm for the impoverished millions under the dictatorship of leader Kim Jong-un. Instead, they suggest Yumi, the person they're talking about in this article to start with, and others like that, that's okay. This is CNN. Look, when we have typos in our articles, that's one thing. This is CNN, though. This thing says, is this grammatically correct? Instead, they suggest Yumi and others are likely related to high-ranking officials and may be part of a propaganda campaign aimed at rebranding the country's international image as more relatable. I mean, I guess that's right. It doesn't look right.
It doesn't flow off the tongue very well either. But more importantly, the content of what they're talking about, where they're saying that the people that are being displayed are likely relatives of well-to-do politicians or military, or that they are actively being propped up to display a lifestyle that is not consistent with the rest of the country. Now, here's my counterpoint, right? And I'm not saying that this isn't propaganda and that this isn't totally what's going on. They're doing this to try to hide the fact that North Korea is a authoritarian muck pit where people are starving and suffering. But you also described YouTubers and streamers everywhere else in the world.
Yeah. I mean, who makes propaganda and who believes it?
Everybody and everybody.
Yep.
And I'm not saying it's a concerted effort on the part of the US or Europe or anywhere in the Western world to make it look like things aren't so bad in this country. But if you were to go look at our internet personalities to get a feel for what it was like to live in said countries, you would probably be just as skewed as if you looked at North Korea. Because there's people are starving over there and being imprisoned by an overbearing government. And which one who are we talking about? You just described both of us.
Yeah.
Both of us being the US and North Korea. The US imprisons the most people per capita. Atlanta is in the midst of riots. Tennessee is in the midst of riots that have been because of the overwhelming violence that is visited upon certain groups in this country. There's all sorts of we've got massive amounts of legislation to restrict the rights of people. Yeah, I mean, like you can say what you want, and I'm not saying that I want to go live in North Korea, but we're talking about the same problems. You're just arguing degrees here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass there, but my point being is that
I think the difference for most people is that, and it's the classic liberal thing of like, oh, well, the government doesn't pay people to do that, so it's not the same as North Korea doing it, which is fair to a point, but it's also the U.S. government doesn't have to pay people to do that. Not that the government hasn't been actively involved in influencing and shaping culture. Go look at the freaking CIA involvement in various critical philosophical circles and modern art.
Oh, yeah.
These are real things.
Well, and then in a country where the ruling force is capital, those that have capital could be argued as just as
they're just as complicit in the shaping of government policy and ultimately the factors that control human life in this country as the high-ranking officials in North Korea.
right. There you go. Well, the government isn't doing it. It's like, yeah, but in America, large corporate interests, if Kraft wanted to make something happen,
I mean,
all
they
have
did
to do
it.
is- yeah,
Kellogg's
happened.
literally changed the way we view breakfast because they paid Edward Bernays to do it. I think it was Kellogg. It was,
Yep.
it was the food companies that started telling, he's like, all right, we hey, Mr. Bernays, we need to sell more eggs and bacon and sugary cereals. How do we do it? Oh, well, let me get my fucking cameras going.
or the equating of tobacco use with feminism and the suffragette movements and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where, hey, ladies, what's really going to help your cause? Buying our product.
We talk about
And
rainbow
has that-
capitalism all the time during Pride Month. I keep making the joke. It'll happen eventually. You're going to get the Pride Month Chick-fil-A sandwich. And people will buy that shit.
Ooh, they'll
They'll fall
buy
over
it, they'll
themselves
take
to buy it.
They'll post TikToks of saying, trying the rainbow Chick-fil-A sandwich. Happy Pride Month. Hashtag blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't mean this to be overly cynical about the whole thing, but it's a pretty fucking cynical issue, isn't it?
Yeah. Ugh.
Wow, we ran with that headline.
Yeah. That wasn't even the big one. We talked about the balloon for like 5 minutes.
You know what? I will say one thing about the balloon. Could you imagine if it was reversed and it was like America sent a balloon over to and it was just floating right past the Beijing or something like that?
Oh yeah.
We'd be a fucking because it would be bad, but mostly we would just look like a fucking laughing stock.
Yeah. And
Maybe
But
that's
people
what
would-
China's mad about.
I guess so.
Like we look. Do you realize how fucking stupid we look?
All right, let's move on to Japanese Prime Minister fires aide over anti-LGBTQ remarks.
Bro, I heard Japanese Prime Minister and fire, and I was like, not again.
Doc, Mr. Shinzo.
Oh, God.
Oh man.
This time the guy did it with only one battery pack.
God, I really hope you're doing well, Japanese MacGyver. Let's see. The Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has sacked an aide who said he would not want to live next to LGBTQ couples and that people would flee Japan if same-sex marriage was permitted. I think you drastically underestimate how ethnocentric the Japanese people are. They're not going anywhere. What are you talking about? Saying that it'll America would never use that argument because they know that people will active, people with hardcore ideological things will freak the fuck out, but they know they're not going to do anything. They wouldn't even pretend that people would fucking leave the state they live in because fucking same-sex marriage got legalized. I mean, they probably did back in the day, honestly, but everyone knows
the issue, what did you mean by people will flee the country? Most people, even in Japan, which I imagine I think they probably have a much better standard of living overall than America.
Oh yeah.
But the bottom line is that most people, and we're just using American as an example, but America is the really easy one because they always talk about oh, you hate America so much, why don't you move? Most people can't fucking afford to uproot their entire life and go to another fucking country.
Yeah, let alone another state in America.
Yeah, a lot of people would have a hard time moving 2 states over. That always goes back to that sort of thing that we talk about with the struggle of states' rights, because it's oh, well, if you don't like it, you can go move to a state. And it's like, well, you're ignoring the material conditions that leave people locked in incredibly shitty situations.
Yeah.
It's like abortion. You can't go on a fucking cross-country road trip to get an abortion. Most people can't fucking afford that. Some people don't even have that as an option.
Well, I mean, it was always like that with abortion. It was literally always that the wealthy had no problem getting abortion because they could just they could literally cross the border somewhere and go get an abortion, safe and legal.
And then that always goes into the rules for thee, not for me, that sort of shit. That's nothing new either.
Nope.
But I think that's a conversation that I think you really have a lot when we talk about the ideas of states' rights versus the federal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's a very, by and large, I feel like that's a very American problem, because like England, France, Poland, you're not that big where you're going to have these huge legal divisions between different parts of your country because there's just not that much to go around. But like America is unique in that idea of you drive 12 hours and there's a whole different set of laws, even though you're still in the same country. And don't get me started on insurance.
Yeah, I saw a meme like that the other day. It was like drive it showed the American flag and it was like drive 12 hours still in the same country, and it was like drive, and then it was like England, I think it said drive 2 hours, and everyone's got a different accent and a different name for bread rolls. And I just looked at that for a minute and I thought, that's not that different. The first time I heard pop, I was shocked. I had no clue what the fuck they were talking about.
Or and then you get the very weird pockets where it's like, if somebody calls sprinkles Jimmy's, we're just having a physical altercation. I'm taking you to North Korea.
You want
I'm
some Jimmy's?
strapping
You're
you to a
Jimmy these
balloon.
hands. Okay.
Oh boy.
Singapore, interesting. Singapore man sues woman for just wanting to be friends, not partners.
This wouldn't happen in Singer Rich.
Claimant seeks $3 million in damages to cover financial losses as well as rehabilitation and therapy to overcome trauma.
I'm just imagining the Tiger King meme of like, take a girl out on one date. I'm never going to financially recover from this.
The trauma he endured by being told, I just think you're like a friend.
Well, the body keeps the score. That's my trauma joke.
Oh, wow.
The guy's trying to work on getting the trauma out of his blue balls.
While the defendant had hoped that the counseling sessions would help the claimant come to terms with her decision to not pursue a romantic relationship with him, this was not the result. Faced with repeated requests and demands for more frequent meetings and deeper conversations, the defendant decided in May 2022 to cease all contact with the claimant.
Oh, so this poor woman humored this individual for far too long, and they were using it as a means to get like somehow you were gonna like therapy your way into the relationship where she said no, and it's like, well, let's just keep talking. It's like when dudes go like, I really like you, can we go out? And they're like, no, but why? Like, it's that sort of thing.
This is what being nice gets you, folks. Like, don't tell when that motherfucker, you're like, I just think you're a friend, and then he was like freaking out, and so I'm like, no, I really like you. It hurts knowing that you don't want to be with me. That's when you immediately go like, all right, I'm getting a restraining order. This is just going.
That's when
into
you go,
a bad
I lied about the first part. I don't want to be your fucking friend anymore. Get the fuck on.
What would have been the magical solution to this?
The good magic of a punch to the nose. Actually, I saw a thing on, I think it was Facebook, where somebody was asking something to the effect of asking for magical assistance of like, how do I use magic to give like fuck off, leave me alone energy? And my only thought was like, look them dead in the eye and say, you're a fucking piece of garbage and like, leave me the fuck alone. And if they don't get the message, pop them one.
wear a really big spiky leather jacket and smoke cigarettes indoors.
Stop bathing for just a couple days. That way you smell so bad that they don't
Get
want
a
to go
copy
near
of
you.
Ayn Rand, and anytime someone talks to you, open it and thoughtfully look at a page and say, I don't know, something about victimhood mentality. I don't fucking know. I try to forget Ayn Rand exists. Only in situations
Actually,
like this
you
where
know
I'm
what?
like, let's get you to run away.
Oh, believe me, I want to take as many shots at Ayn Rand and objectivism as we possibly can in the next, 30 seconds. But the fact is, you could do that with any book and it would probably come off just as annoying and abrasive. I mean, I know plenty of people that do that with what you're describing. They do that with like Harry Potter, essentially.
Oh, Harry Potter would work just as well as Ayn Rand for me.
Oh God. I mean, but if some, let's dog the other end of the spectrum out. If somebody pulled out a copy of Mein Kampf every time you had something to say, or if or
you wouldn't even get to pulling it out. I'd see that shit and I'd be like, nope, and smack it out your hand and keep walking. You're not gonna.
What would be like the? No, actually, no. Here's the left-right spectrum. If somebody pulled out Das Kapital and had something to say about it every time you brought something up, it'd be like, you annoying motherfucker. Will you
First off, you don't know how to read that book. Second off, you suck.
I don't like my labor being exploited either, but fuck.
I'm trying to get on the bus.
I just asked if you wanted coleslaw.
Let me talk to you about surplus value extraction. Sir, this is a Wendy's.
Or even again, non-political. I mean, what if somebody pulled out every time you tried to talk to them, they pulled out a copy of One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish?
If I'm at a Red Lobster, that would be appropriate, though.
If I never go to a Red Lobster again, it'll be too soon.
Scientist who edited baby's genes said he acted too quickly.
Wait. The scientist said that he acted too quickly, as in I should not have done that so fast.
Yeah, I guess so.
Not that he tampered with this baby's genetics and gave him like speedster powers, right?
Oh, okay. This is about, you remember this. It happened back in 2018.
The baby that they cured of HIV?
No, it was
Oh.
Yeah, world's first edited babies created in China. Claims scientist. Unconfirmed scientific breakthrough.
Oh, I think I remember this then, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but here's what I didn't know about that. He Jiankui sent shockwaves across the world of science when he announced in 2018 that he had edited the genes of twin girls Lulu and Nana before birth. He was subsequently sacked from his university in Shenzhen, received a 3-year prison sentence, and was broadly condemned for having gone ahead with the risky, ethically contentious, and medically unjustified procedure with inadequate consent from the families involved. So, whoa, I didn't realize that he just did it and was like, hey, guess what? You have designer babies now.
The accelerationist part of me wants to be like, if this is the road we're going to go down, we need to acknowledge that there's never going to be the appropriate time to edit the human genetic sequence of living people.
Yeah, but you should at least ask the parents' consent a little bit. You don't just go in there and be like, all right, let's just get you, we're going to get your ultrasound going. It'll be all right. And you might feel a little bit of a prick here.
I don't think he was like, no. I don't believe. Well, if he just did it without any sort of consent, then that's pretty wild. But I find it hard to believe that he was just like, all right, yeah, let's go ahead, take a look. All right, you're going towards your first trimester. Oh my God, what's that over there? And then he fucking injected them with something. I don't know.
Hits him with the DNA scrambler.
Just shoots up, just aiming a laser up her skirt while she's standing there. It's like, oh, don't pay attention to that.
Speaking to The Guardian in one of his first interviews since his public reemergence last year, he said, I've been thinking about what I've done in the past for a long time. To summarize it up in one sentence, I did it too quickly. However, he stopped short of expressing regret or apologizing, saying, I need more time to think about that. And that's a complicated question. That is the exact thing you don't say in that situation.
Leave Dr. Frankenstein alone, all right? The man had something he wanted to make happen, and he went for it. He said nothing is true, everything is permitted, and he made him some designer babies.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not I'm not condoning what he did. I'm just saying that the single-mindedness of a man with a goal, you're never going to get him to admit that, like,
he did something wrong.
What I did was wrong.
Right.
He did it. He did that for the in his mind, at least. He did that for the future of humanity.
Yeah. And admittedly, it's not like he did anything. Well, I mean, I guess we don't know.
The babies aren't dead. They don't have two heads. Like they're I guarantee you they're all but fine. It's just the weird dreams that they have of non-Euclidean geometry beyond the veil.
Well, Nana's doing great, but Lulu, every now and then, she does this thing where she just stares into the mirror and says, "I know who you are," over and over again.
Yeah. And again, this is not it. Honestly, it isn't my place to say whether or not what he did was wrong. I don't know the full details of the situation, but I guarantee you, in his mind, he was doing that.
He was doing it for science.
He was doing it for
humanity. All that crap.
He was doing it for the betterment of the entire human species, to try to ensure our survival in the insurmountable cosmic ordeals that are facing us. And you're never gonna, like, the fact that he went to prison was probably a small fucking price to pay. In his mind, at least.
Yeah. All right, you ready for your parrot headline before we go on to actual occult news?
Gattaca.
You ready for the parrot headline?
Yeah, give me the parrot with an earpiece headline.
Portuguese pooch crowned world's oldest dog.
No.
And he's such a good boy.
Who's the old boy? Oh, well, what good bozers. Let me see this dog. I need to see them.
I will send you the photo, but 30-year-old Bobby
right now
snatched the title from an American dog.
What's their name?
Bobby. B-O-B-I.
Bobby? Oh, Bobby. That's a great name for a dog.
Yeah, look at him. He's a cute little old man.
Let me see. Oh, my God. Hold on. Baby, come look at this. It's the world's oldest dog. We are, but, like, you got to see the world's oldest dog. His name's Bobby. Bobby. He's Portuguese. A Portuguese dog named Bobby. Look at him. He's 30 years old. That's an old dog. I love him.
The longevity was credited to human food and a calm, peaceful environment. That is the exact same shit I always hear. It's always that. It's like when you hear about the oldest man living in the Bronx who's like 107 or something, and you're like, "Oh, what do you eat?" Like, "Oh, well, I just have a lot of like canned soups and milk, and I smoke at least 3 cigars a day, and I just chill. I play chess and I hang out."
Yeah, I think we're going to find out. Actually, there was a Woody Allen movie where
he slept with his stepdaughter.
Oh, I thought you knew it, and then you said with his stepdaughter, and I was like, "Damn it, no, God, no!" It's a Rip Van Winkle type thing where Woody Allen sleeps and wakes up in the far future, and they're doing things like giving him chocolate sundaes and everything like that because they found out that everything that was bad for you is actually good for you. And there's a scene where and Woody Allen's like a health nut in this. So the doctor is like smoking a cigarette and it's like, "Man, you need to relax. Come here, take this." He's like, no, I don't smoke. He's like, "It's tobacco. It's one of the healthiest things you can put in your body." And it's like, we're going to find out that essentially like just a life of splendid indulgence is going to be like the best thing that you can do to yourself. Because it's going to be found out like that like stress and drudgery will kill you quicker than like shooting heroin into yourself.
It's gonna be like that thing, it'll go from being like, it takes more muscles to frown than to smile, to be like, frowning is detrimental to your health. If you care about your family, you smile.
Yeah.
Find the
But
joy.
then you'll say,
you go to the doctor and he's like, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what your blood pressure's just through the roof. You got macular degeneration. It's like, what? Did you not like the new Disney movie?
Oh, dude, that is actually some
That's
weird
actually
Hellworld
kind of
shit.
that is some dystopian shit right there. See, you're thinking all the good stuff. I'm just thinking of like, how do we fucking manufacture happiness to keep people alive? Which is kind of what we do now.
We'll just all have an electrode jammed into part of our brain that forces your brain to make serotonin.
All right, and I guess
Boy.
with that, we'll get on to the actual occult news for the week, because we actually have a good bit of it.
Yeah, there's some notable stories right now. Where do we want to start?
Oh,
Can we start with the Jimmy Page Playhouse?
let's start with the Jimmy Page Playhouse.
And pull yourself up a chair. Let the fun begin. It's time to wet down.
The long and short of it is that Boleskine House, where there's this occultist that, like, I don't know, he's a little obscure. Not a lot of people know about him. His name is Aleister Crowley. He lived in Boleskine House at Loch Ness, where he performed a series of conjurations. And
he did the Abramelin.
Abramelin, yeah, and he failed to complete it. I know he completed it later, but I believe at Boleskine he actually
he didn't
failed to finish it, which is part of why they say Boleskine is haunted. Ooh. The Loch Ness Monster is really a demon. The house shifted hands a couple times. Jimmy Page notably bought it and
did magic in it.
Supposedly did magic in it. I don't know for a fact. I honestly don't know that much about Jimmy Page's occultism. Rocker with some eccentric tastes.
Someone who was a friend of his claimed that he was into occultism before he was like even that big into music, which is interesting. I don't know how true it is, but
oh wait, is the implication that their success could be chalked up to their occult doings?
Yeah, that's what I've heard, at least. No clue how true it is.
Yeah, it works for Giant, man. I know after Page, it shifted to a couple different people. Eventually, it fell back into the hands of Thelemites, who decided that it was worth, because of its historical association with their great prophet, that it should be in the hands of Thelemites.
Well, that's what they told everybody, at least. The people who were actually involved with it are Keith Reddy, who is only notable really for a book called One Truth and One Spirit, Aleister Crowley's Spiritual Legacy. And if you haven't read that book, it is essentially a revisionist history of Thelema. I'm not going to call it anything short of that. It's trying to make the argument that the AA and the OTO, the huge bodies, or not so huge bodies, admittedly, but the bodies that Crowley set up in relation to his work of trying to make Thelema a thing, it's trying to present them as if they were one big cohesive thing with a very clear lineage and ability to say who is legitimate and who isn't. And if you know anything about the storied history of Thelema and the OTO and the AA, that is anything but true.
God,
You could fucking, honestly, there are about as many AA lineages as there are fucking people on the internet. It's fucking ridiculous. Like, there's no singular order, and the OTO has had its own ridiculous legal battles. I mean, people don't even like talking about the fact that Theodore Royce, the head of the OTO, who Crowley replaced after his death, had some reservations about Crowley himself.
I mean, who wouldn't have some reservations about Crowley?
Yeah, it's kind of a clusterfuck. And then there's all sorts of stuff about how there was never a single point where the AA had a full body, as it were, like all the necessary members to be able to call it an unbroken chain. It's a weird little thing. I won't go into the full specifics of it because you can spend hours just talking about this ridiculous stuff. The point being that Mr. Reddy wrote this book. Mr. Reddy is associated with William Breeze, who is the current head of the OTO. Breeze is associated with another character named J. Daniel Gunther, who is fucking...
That's who I was waiting on.
Yeah. The long
Gunthy.
The long and short of it is that Gunther was a guy who in the 70s started the AA again, thinking that it had ceased to exist, and then found out wrong. And he had a huge falling out with the person who ended up actually being one of the few remaining AA people, Marcelo Mota, who is a fucking peach of a human being. You should check out his ridiculous, crazy shit. Carl Germer has all sorts of great stuff to say about him. Carl Germer being the person who succeeded Crowley after his death as the head of the OTO. It's a huge clusterfuck. The big point being that a certain group of these people who went out of their way to make it look like it wasn't them begged for money from all these people so they could buy Boleskine under the idea that it was too big of a point of their heritage for it to fall into disrepair and be torn down or owned by anyone else. And it was all sort of, like, oh, it's going to be made a historical thing. We're going to, it's going to be open to all Thelemites who want to see it, all that kind of crap. And the big bit of news we got, I think like a week or two ago, is essentially they just started building little condos on it, or at least it's getting zoned for them to build condos on it.
Yeah, there was an application that was put in for 6 houses right next to the actual main building. So not only and that's the problem when you hear, oh, they're building more houses next to the large historical property, and the other thing is that it already burnt down. Yeah,
because Christian radicals think Aleister Crowley is not that good of a guy.
Yeah, which is fine. It's it already got burnt down. So the original Boleskine is not really there anymore, my understanding is that it's not even put back together. It's still a burnt out husk. The point being is that there's not a lot of good answers for why you're going to be building houses next to what is essentially, for lack of a better word, a religious temple. It's either you're going to have some sort of scummy real estate scheme of trying to sell some houses and jack up the rates because it's next to this thing, which I don't know, maybe you're gonna get some rich Thelemites, which seems a little weird. Maybe
they had to beg money to buy it, so fuck them.
Yeah,
they're just gonna move in and hang out there.
Yeah, there's the idea that this is going to become a Thelemic spiritual compound, which is concerning given the particular type of Thelemites that these people are. Lon Milo, they are not. So that's also very concerning. Somebody floated the idea that it's well, maybe there's going to be some weird Airbnb type shit where they're going to rent it out to the spiritual seekers. Oh yeah, we're right by the place where Crowley summoned all those demons. We're going to go into there at night with a Ouija board. But either way, it's there's clearly some sort of money-making thing going on the back end of this. This gets to the other point I'm going to make. The current manifestation of occultism, what are the metrics of success that you get to be the biggest grifter, Gunther and Keith Reddy and the rest of them are clearly doing they're quote unquote good occultists because look, they can convince a bunch of fucking idiots who most of them probably don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of to send them fucking money to buy the Jimmy Page Playhouse so that they can all build fucking houses and make money off of it. Or worse yet, just start living there for, off of the backs of a bunch of people that they've convinced they had some sort of magical or spiritual pedigree to fall back on, where it's like, yeah, you should really support what we're doing because really we're doing it for you. And it's like, what? It's just,
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know, man. It's bad news. It's bad, like, not just on like the grounds of what they're doing, which I find like, you've convinced a bunch of idiots that you're furthering a cause by essentially buying a little like a vacation home.
Yeah.
And now it's like seriously like a vacation home. You're literally building summer homes on the shore. So you tricked a bunch of yahoos into thinking that you were doing something for the good of everyone when really it was for you. It's a cult community 101 at this point.
Yeah, we don't know anything
like
about
you're
people doing that sort of thing, do we?
Yeah, I mean, like, and I understand that once again, this is shut up and listen to my podcast, but like, I can genuinely say I don't have a vested interest in telling anybody anything to fleece their hard-earned money out of them. I don't make any claim of any degrees or special information. I'm not having phone calls with the Grand Poobah or the Secret Chiefs. I'm just a jackass with opinions.
Listeners, all of you will be part owners in the new CMN Arctic Circle compound. Your donation of $25 or more will get you a window room to look down into the hole in the Arctic Circle that leads into the hollow earth.
Okay, forget what I was talking about. Yeah, listeners, this is a great idea. I'm telling you, the earth is hollow inside. There are mole men.
There's mole men, there's giants.
and mole non-binaries. But genuinely, I think it's a very sad state of affairs that who can you look to as the shining successes of the occult community? And I'll put that in quotes because I don't think there's much of, community implies a sense of fellowship and togetherness. The subculture of occultism, you want to look and see who's really making moves. Just look to see who's fleecing the most money out of people, because that's all we've got at this point.
Yeah, that's it. That's all we've got. Magic has become a grift for a lot of grifters.
Yeah, and the worst part is like grift, not as in like people that are necessarily like, I'm selling the idea of magic to idiots who believe in magic, because there's plenty of that too. But there's people that genuinely believe in magic and believe in these spiritual teachings and ancient wisdom and knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel or whatever the fuck. But they've somehow convinced themselves that proper use of all this esoteric knowledge is to grift money out of folks.
Yep. It's a sad, sad world. That's why you keep your head down and do the work and only interact with people on a podcast.
Yeah. I mean, but that is really the only answer I've come to, is that mostly you should shut up, do your work, and if you're lucky, you'll find a couple people that you can actually stand or trust enough to let in on your work, and you do what you can. But the minute that large groups and gatherings and cults of personality start forming, things like this happen. It really was one thing when they just had a burnt out shack on a sandy beach, and they were sending people. One of the things they were like, if you donate some money, we'll send you part of the burnt out husk of this building. And they'd send you like just like a burnt hunk of wood and rock for whatever reason. It was one thing there, but like this is kind of just proof of like this was the long game the whole time. This is what they wanted to do from the start. They just probably hadn't stolen enough from people.
Well, to wash the terrible taste of that out of my mouth, let's talk about people being imprisoned unlawfully.
Yeah.
You all know it. I think to start with, what I want to say is that Damien Echols is one of the most interesting figures in occultism for me, not because of anything they've written or said, just because they are a strange example of what happens when you do this stuff right.
Yeah, I suppose so.
For those of you that don't know about the West Memphis 3, it was a huge fucking murder trial back in
93.
Yep. And there were three boys, all fairly young at the time. Damien Echols, Jesse Miskelly, and
18,
Jason
16,
Baldwin.
and 17.
Yep. And they were all convicted of the murder of 3 boys in West Memphis, Arkansas. Damien Echols was sentenced to death. Miskelly was given life imprisonment plus 2 20-year sentences, and Jason Baldwin was given life imprisonment. The trial involved the prosecution asserting that the juveniles killed them as part of a satanic ritual. And it was in 2011, after years of activism on multiple people's part, evidence of improper procedure, and then new DNA evidence emerging. And of course, Mr. Echols himself doing occult working while in prison. They were all allowed to give Alford pleas.
An Alford plea is basically when you plead guilty, not because you admit that you actually did it, but essentially that the
court had
evidence
enough
and the case that
to
they've
convict
made.
you.
Yeah, is that I didn't do it, but
I can see why
y'all
you would
have
think
enough
I
to
would.
say. I can see why you think I might have done it. They made a very good case.
I was
But
almost
yeah,
convinced for a second myself.
Yeah. But Mr. Echols has written a couple books about his experience with this horrible murder accusation, always maintained his innocence. I believe all 3 of them have just flat out said, yeah, we didn't do this, and no one's ever gone back on it, as far as I know. But then he's also written a couple books on magic and talked about the type of occult rituals and workings that he did while in prison to get the fuck out of prison. You got to give it to him, man. I mean, you got sentenced to death. And granted, there's always the argument of like, oh, well, he didn't do it, so of course he got out. But I mean, there's
There's plenty of people that have got killed for not doing it.
Yeah. So I'm sure if you asked him, he's pretty sure that the magic is probably what got him going. Which, it's a very interesting thing. I don't think Mr. Echols has anything particularly groundbreaking as far as like magical theory or anything, but
he shows
he
you
definitely
what, I mean, that's 18 years of his life, and it's a tragedy, but he did get out.
he's not fucking dead.
Yeah, he's not dead. So the thing that's newsworthy here is Mr. Echols placed an appeal with the Arkansas Supreme Court to test DNA for the case, and it was refused, and now he's appealing it to the Supreme Court. And as of January 25th, the state of Arkansas asked for 21 more days to respond to the appeal. And let's see, what's 21 days from January 5th or 25th? That's coming up, right? We're almost at a crunch time.
You said another 21 days from the 25th?
Yeah.
They've still got a couple weeks, but it's coming up. The other notable thing is that this has been going on for years.
3 decades.
Mr. Echols and actually the entire West Memphis 3 and at this point their incredibly dedicated legal team have been doing everything in their power to try to get these 3 exonerated. And I think this is my conspiratorial end of it, right? I think the state of Arkansas knows full well that they fucked up, and they just don't want to admit that they fucked up or exonerate these men, because it will open them up to a tremendous just a lawsuit, basically.
It will open the floodgates.
You'll
too.
have to, it'll open the floodgates for all the shit that was probably going on at that time. But also, like, you took collectively 18 years from 3 young men, and you're going to have to pay some kind of restitution for that. And the problem is that the minute they go, all right, yeah, I didn't do it, we fucked up, it's over. You're going to have to give them something.
As always, it's people covering their ass.
Yeah, and now that they have such a massive, and I'm not saying that, you know, there's a very real possibility that a lot of the people that are representing them at this point aren't doing so out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because they know there is a huge payout on the other end of that line.
Right, but they've also had overwhelming cultural support.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not saying I wasn't saying it's just that, but I'm saying that there is a lot of motivating factors on both ends to keep things going in the direction that they're going. The legal team of the West Memphis 3 really wants to prove that they really want to get an overturn of the conviction so that they can start going for the thing that's going to make some money. And then the state really doesn't want to have to give any money.
Yeah.
That's just that's my conspiracy on the whole thing. That's why I think things are the way they are right now.
In the first couple episodes when we talked about satanic panic and how that there were still people whose lives were ruined by that sort of thing. This is exactly what we're talking about. And the thing to be mindful of here more than anything is that it hasn't gone away. It has not gone away.
No, it hasn't.
It's still here. Every time you see some wackadoo on the internet talking about fucking QAnon still, or fucking Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile cult island.
The weird statue that they put on top of the financial building.
Yeah, it's still here. And the thing that I think that gets me more than anything is a lot of these are people that are into the occult and have that sort of thing, and they come up with these theories thinking like that it's, I don't know, some sort of validation of the reality of the occult, when more than anything you're fucking playing yourself. You're an occultist. You don't think they're gonna go look at your fucking bookshelf and think like, oh well, fucking he's probably one of the good ones? It could just as easily happen to you.
Yeah, it absolutely could. And if this stuff were to take root again, even if they weren't throwing you in prison, like it's already hard enough being an open spooky woo-woo, just because people look at you like you're a weirdo. And a lot of times, you know, I don't really care if people think I'm a weirdo, but there is the sort of unspoken impact that it might have, where maybe they're not telling you to your face that you're being treated a certain way or looked at a certain way because of your beliefs. But I'll use the South for an example, right? If any of you have ever lived in an area where one of the first questions they ask you is like, well, what church do you go to? And then your answer is like, oh, I don't know about that, but I got this altar in my house. There's a certain level of societal pressure you might start feeling on you. At the very least, the societal pressure to not talk about this stuff too loudly before someone gets the wrong idea. And I don't mean to make this into a huge, like, oh, where it's actually, you know, being an occultist, it makes you an oppressed class or anything. But there is the reality of like, when certain amounts of scared and stupid people can get in a tizzy about things, it can be kind of unsafe to say things that they don't understand or scare them. If this stuff really did take root again, I think you'd be surprised at how difficult a lot of things that you took for granted would become. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
When you go from being an eccentric weirdo to someone who has to actively hide certain ideas and opinions you have because there are some would-be inquisitors who would really like to get you jammed up on some stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm. Or even just some cops that don't have any good leads.
Yeah.
And a nice little story to tell.
Yeah, you make a convenient scapegoat because, shit, who owns that many swords if they're not trying to commit satanic sacrifices?
All right. Well, that's your news for the week. I guess now we get to move on to our culture piece. Who doesn't love some culture?
Like in yogurt.
No, like in the lab of that guy who edited those kids.
It was for the good of humanity. I keep saying that, like, and then I'm going like, oh, I don't really have a dog in this fight. I can't say, but then I'm also like, it was for all of us.
So we have two things we're going to talk about.
Well, hold on. Before that, I've got two things. One, what was the shit that Alexander Dugan was talking about where he was like, first is it's trans, because it's like it's trans something, then it's transgender, next is transhuman, or it was like transgender, then trans something, then transhuman. What was the third trans? I don't remember.
I don't even remember. I just
what
remember
I'm talking
looking
about,
at that.
like,
Yeah,
oh,
I do. I remember the video.
Trans person, they're cyborg.
then the next step is on cyborg.
Cyborg.
Look, I don't want to say Alexander Dugan is right about anything, but I just know a lot of wonderful trans people that are super into robots.
Cyborg.
It's just one of those like, oh, you're saying this like it's a bad thing.
Oh boy. Actually, maybe it's appropriate that I bring up Dugan because
I mean, that's exact. I thought you were doing it on purpose because he's incredibly important to our culture piece here.
No, that wasn't actually on purpose. I was just remembering a funny Dugan thing.
Yeah. So he is appropriate. This is an article back from March of 2022. And the only reason we're talking about it is because someone shared it and I looked at it not realizing what it was. Got a little heated, so I'm just going to talk about it. This is by
Take two.
This is by Aleph.
Take three.
This was originally published by Aleph
Ali Stankonia.
Aleph Skotenos. This is originally published by I keep trying to say Alice. This was originally published by Aleph Skotenos. I'm mispronouncing it. Who cares? It's called Chaos Nihilism
with pronouncing names.
I know, and it's like that's the problem. I know this. I know what that is. I know what that means. It's just a Greek word, and it's just like I can't say it. I can't say anything. Ugh. I'm such a fucking moron. I'm fake occultist. Anyway, this was posted on their blog.
How hard is it to say Outcast Stankonia?
The best part is I'm going to have all the clips just going like take two, take three over and over again.
Love it.
It's called Chaos, Nihilism, and the Way of No Surrender. And it talks about a lot of things. It's mostly about the appropriation of the Chaos Star by fascists. More specifically, by the Eurasianist movement by the previously mentioned Alexander Dugan, who I'm sure everyone knows now because people care about Vladimir Putin. He's been around for fucking ever. And people only started giving a shit about him because Putin, like, invaded Ukraine. He's always been a dangerous, crazy person.
He's always been a stinky Rasputin. But it really starts because his book, The Fourth Way, right?
The fourth political theory.
Uses the fourth political... Okay. Oh, okay. Because I was about to give him shit, too, where it's like, I think I'm honestly more mad about The Fourth Way because he stole that from Gurdjieff, but I just misremembered it.
No, I mean, and if you guys don't know anything about Alexander Dugan other than he's like Putin's right-hand man, which isn't true, by the way, just being 100% honest with you, it's not. Alexander Dugan does have a lot of pull in the Russian intelligentsia, as it were, but he's not nearly as influential as people think he is, mostly because he kind of came to prominence at first by being like incredibly anti-communist, and then he was like he invented National Bolshevism, which is just rebranding of Strasserism. It's just, nationalist policies, and he's written some really interesting work on Heidegger and Greek thought that's kind of interesting, but he uses it to justify just being a fascist, essentially. So it's take of that what you will.
Yeah, and it's it's one of those things that because of the type of audience that we get, I don't feel bad saying this, but I think he's worth looking into because of the type of people that listen to this. And what I mean by that is that if you are a chaos magic person, you understand how to look at an idea and not become it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend just anybody read it, because the fact is you might read it and it might give you a lot of bad ideas that infect you.
Yeah, you might be taken in by this sort of thinking. You can read our listeners are very intelligent people. You can read this and evaluate it critically and see what's actually going on here. You can get beyond the florid language and all of that bullshit that gives you this sort of idea of, like, I don't know. He's very big on the sacred and tradition and an understanding of man. That's I mean, it's like I said, it's all stuff that has philosophical interest to it. But at the end of the day, it's being used to justify very real and terrifying things by a lot of people.
But I think it can be useful to understand the logic of how they got there. A lot of the times, people, particularly if we're talking about hyper nationalist or any sort of ideology that is predicated on we need to force everyone to fall in line with us for the good of the collective, there is often this idea of this is the conclusion that we drew, and we are now going to work backwards from that conclusion to come up with an intellectual justification. I don't think that's what Dugan is doing. I think Dugan 100% worked through these problems to figure out what he thinks the solution is. He's still wrong.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
He's still
wrong. But you should look at these issues because he identifies some real problems in the ideas of modernity, for lack of a better word, and the Heideggerian sort of thing. Like the issues of the modern world. It's just what his solutions are wrong. But maybe if you look into this, you can say, oh, I see where you went wrong, buddy.
Yeah, and I mean, and I've said it a billion times. People are far too afraid to look into the ideas of their enemies, and it's only at their detriment because you don't actually understand how to criticize them. If you don't understand what the hell they're thinking.
Yeah, it's very easy to just be like, oh, they're a bigot, or they're this, they're that, or that. It's like, no, you need to get to the heart of why they think these things. Even if somebody is legit, if you're arguing with a racist, you don't just stop at they're a racist. You need to get into why they think the way that they think. You can't just see a bigoted idea and stop there.
You need to explain to anyone and everyone that's paying attention to this
here's
why
the thing.
This is not a good idea.
Well, and the thing is, here's the thing too. If you tell a bigot that they're a bigot, they're going to be like, yeah, and so what? You need to get to the heart of why bigotry is a fucking bad idea and why it's bad thinking and why it's not good for them or for anybody else. We are getting well off the mark here because there's a whole article that we haven't even touched on yet.
And it's only and Dugan's only relevant to the fact that Dugan took the 8-pointed star and used it for his, little Eurasianist bullshit movement. And because of that, the star has gained some bad press in leftist circles, which is kind of interesting given that I think that the vast majority of people that are into chaos magic are leftist of some ilk.
Yeah, that's probably accurate. I think most of them would be like, I'm like an anarchist.
Right. And that's what I feel about the person that wrote this article too. Although the person who wrote it says that they're not a chaos magician. Take of that what you will. But someone posted a meme and leftist went animal on it, and I don't think without good reason, but this whole article is in defense of that meme. It's a person in a balaclava with a fucking AK or an AR, I can't tell, it's a fucking drawing, with the chaos star in the background with this wonderful text at the bottom. The anarcho-nihilist position is essentially that we are fucked, that the current manifestation of human society, civilization, Leviathan, industrial society, global capitalism, whatever, is beyond salvation, and our response to it should be one of unmitigated hostility. There are no demands to be made, no utopic visions to be upheld, no political programs to be followed. The path of resistance is one of pure negation. And people saw that and immediately just started calling it out as being sort of fascisty, mostly because of the star. We're like, oh, that's like the fucking Eurasian Duggan star thing, right? Like, this is bullshit. What the fuck? As an ideology, I think that anarcho-nihilism, as presented in that meme, is completely incoherent. That's just my take.
It just sounds like some...
It sounds edgy is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds edgy, and it also sounds like, granted, here's the problem. You take any ideology, you take... See, the thing, this ideology, condensed to a meme, and so on and so on. But no, for real, you take any ideology and condense it down to like a couple sentences, you can probably make it seem by like literally reducing it down makes it sound reductionist. Shocker. But at the same time, if your whole standpoint is world is fucked, planet piss, like bomb the rainforest, of course you're going to sound like an edgy child. Or you're going to sound like a sad defeatist where it's like, oh, the only answer to this world is to like burn it down. And it's like, then they could have actually they could have made that description even shorter where they could have said, what
Life
was
is
it?
a fuck,
Anarcho-nihilist?
Yeah.
Anarcho-nihilist, live in a society, bottom text.
Yeah, but the important thing for this whole thing is that people jumped on it just from seeing the fucking star.
Right.
And the article makes this a really big point to just talk about how we shouldn't surrender our symbols unto fascist infiltrators. And while I agree with this sentiment, I also think that it's like such a non-issue. Because first off, like that's not new. I mean, this article's from last year, but the fucking Eurasianist people have been using that fucking symbol since like God knows when. I don't fucking know when that shit was founded, but I know it was well before fucking 2022.
Well, here, shot in the dark, right? When did fourth political theory come out?
Fuck if I know. A while back.
I'm looking it up. Fourth political theory was published in 2012.
Was that when it was published or was that when it was translated into English?
Oh, yeah, good point. Okay, published in 2009. That means at the very least, you're talking about a symbol that's probably been thrown around for over 10 years.
Oh, well, no, the Eurasian Party was started in fucking 2020. No, it was started in 2000. The Eurasianist Party was started in fucking 2002. So it's been going on for like 2 decades and people are just now noticing it?
I think maybe part of the issue comes down to chaos magic is largely the bastion of what? The UK and America, right?
Yeah, Anglos,
I guess. Well, I don't know. That makes it sound like...
No, yeah, it's mostly the bastion of the
Sorry,
English...
you said Anglos and my brain just goes to like, whiteys, Caucasians, the mayonnaise boys.
The pink boys.
The pink boys. Oh boy, this is the pink boys method of time control.
No, but yeah, like it's mostly the English speaking world in the West. Bit of South America as well.
Bit of South America, some of little pockets throughout Europe, but mostly like Western Europe.
Yeah.
And that's about right.
And it's probably the prominence of Dugan coming into public consciousness as well.
And that's what I'm saying is that it's like the problem is it's a bit like it would be like if you as a Westerner got mad that over in parts of the Middle East the thumbs up is an obscene gesture where it's like, man, we can't let them have this. That's been a thing for longer than you. It's like let it go, man. Just understand that in different circles symbols might have different context, and just be specific that if you've got a chaos star on you and somebody calls you out on it, just be like, no, it's not, that isn't the thing. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
Guess
it's
what? Like, I hate
it's
to
like
say
someone
it like
seeing
this
a
too, but
swastika
like
on a
example,
fucking Hindu
yeah,
temple and being mad.
you and I are already going to the same spot where it's like, guess what? If you go into India and you see a swastika, they're probably not fucking Nazis. You know, just use that part of your brain that gets to hog more than 2 of the IQ points to figure out that different things mean different things.
Yeah, and I mean,
Things can look like things and things can sound like things, but things are not necessarily the same thing.
if we sell
Fucking-
CMN shirts, we're definitely gonna have one that says, "You're telling me things look like things and things can sound like things."
Things sound like things. Do things also look like things?
Yeah,
You know, the problem is I think I said that as just like just as like a whatever. I wasn't thinking about it. But now whenever I see any of those posts where it's like, this is what a microchip looks like, and this is what a city looks like from above, my brain just goes, wait, are you telling me things look like things?
yeah, and I don't know. I can understand it. It's different in a certain sense than the swastika thing, just because, you know, there are stupid internet weirdos that are flocking in the same circles that could very well have that symbol for both of those meanings.
Well,
I don't see us getting rid of
the-
the Chaos Star over it, and I don't think that we
Oh, hell
should.
no. Well, and then the other problem too, right, is that nothing is true, everything is permitted. That is the age-old adage of the coyote. Are you going to be like, nothing is true, everything is permitted, except for that because I don't like it?
Except for the Twitter mob yelling at me for having a star on my profile.
Yeah. Like,
They're very real.
well, it's like, it's one of those things that I'm not saying I agree with it, but I also understand that nobody is under an obligation to agree with me morally for me to acknowledge them as a chaos magician, if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, I think most of them are shit.
Yeah, I think most chaos magicians are, not only are you morally abhorrent, but you're dusty.
You're
and
bad
you
at magic.
You got cracked. You got cracked lips. You know,
Need to moisturize.
your mom owes me $5. I don't know. It's like, you know, I don't have anything good to say about other chaos magicians for the
Except
most
our
part.
listeners. You guys are great.
Yeah,
We love
if you're
you.
listening to this, yeah, please send us $25 so we can buy our Arctic
can
Green,
get your room.
Arctic Green compound. Yeah, yeah. But no, for real, it's like I don't have the vast majority of chaos magicians and vast majority of occultists in general. I don't have good things to say about. But that doesn't necessarily mean I think I need to wrestle esoteric knowledge from them.
Yeah, me either. It just seems kind of goofy and pointless.
The idea that the Eurasianist movement using this 8-pointed star is going to somehow irreparably damage chaos magic is silly.
Yeah,
You know?
I would reckon that there's probably just as many. No, in fact, I think that there's probably less fucking Eurasianist people online than there are fucking coyotes. But those are both
I
still
mean-
infinitesimally small numbers.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, but I got a silly question for you now.
Go for it.
If you had to come up with a unifying symbol for chaos magic that wasn't the star, what would it be?
It would be a half-smoked Marlboro Light 100.
I just quit smoking again, so you're a dick for bringing that up.
I'm so sorry. No, it's it'd be
It's okay. It's my fault for starting smoking again. Shouldn't have done it.
yeah, it'll be and good job. We're super duper proud of you, all of us and the listeners.
Aw.
No, I don't know. It's a hard thing. Maybe like a weird sphere with like a swirl and then another swirl, like going in different directions. something contradictory.
Oh, I thought you were describing something like you were trying to make a joke, like you were gonna.
No, it's
I was sitting here trying to picture that, and it's like, what the fuck is he referencing? No, I could see that though. I guess like something that would try to encapsulate the contradictory nature.
No, I got it. The fucking Wittgenstein bunny duck.
Damn, that's actually a good one.
Yeah, right? Like you could simplify it, but bunny duck. Yeah, bunny duck should be the.
Yeah.
But fuck the star. Let's just get bunny duck. That sounds awesome because nothing's
Yeah.
true. Everything's permitted. It's all about how you're looking at it.
Yeah. Actually, I think that is actually a very good one. Well done.
What about you? You got any ideas?
I think mostly chaos magic. If you wanted to condense chaos magic down, and we talked about this in the first episode, is that I think the good starting point is the bedrock of the notion of chaos, and then the notion of Kia as the will or the consciousness of the practitioner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you had like an arch that symbolized the point of chaos reaching out into the center, and then the point of Kia reaching out as another arch into the center. So it's like you have 2 points that arch up and then meet in the center, and that center is Gnosis. So you have like 2 arches.
Oh, that's pretty
coming
good.
Together and meeting.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, and then you make them gold, right? As like the symbolic of like the Philosopher's Stone sort of base metals into gold. So you have like these 2 golden arches.
I feel like such an idiot for not getting that quicker. Oh my god. No, see, that's what we should do. Like,
Royale and cheese.
They're gonna steal our symbols. We're gonna steal some of them we're gonna steal some other ones. You can fucking have the Chaos Star. We're done.
Yeah, we're gonna take McDonald's golden arches. Here's the little through line for this then. We said who makes propaganda and who believes it. That was Don Joyce from Negative Land. Negative Land was one of the big proponents of culture jamming, where you take shit, you take the McDonald's golden arches and you use them to make something else. You steal Coca-Cola's font and you make other things with it. You use everything that these large corporate entities, and you juxtapose and mess with it for stuff. So I feel like that's a super chaos magic sensibility that we should get down with more.
Yeah, I agree entirely. Also, R.I.P. Don Joyce. I have some of your ashes in my house somewhere. And in the spirit of Don Joyce, I'm actually going to appropriate one of his characters to get us to the next segment. I'm Ronald Redball. Here's something else. If you don't like CMN, I'll eat a bug.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
I used to be famous. Now I sell burgers. God damn.
Oh. I fucking miss those guys so much.
Over the Edge, man. Such a good show.
It's such a good show. Well,
anyway, that about wraps it up for this episode, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we're at a reasonable length for once in our goddamn lives. So let's make it a little bit longer so it'll piss me off when I edit it. Do you want to
do an interview with a wizard?
I do want to do an interview with a wizard question. For those of you who don't know, This is our segment where we take Peter Carroll's interview with a wizard book, where he gets asked questions by his young ward. And we go through and we find a question we like, and then we answer it because we have much better opinions than Peter Carroll. Sometimes they're the same opinions, but we say them better. So what do we got?
God, there's actually some really good ones right now.
All right, we'll pick one.
I'll pick this one just because it seems like we can riff on this for like a minute and then just probably tie the episode up in a nice little bow. This is question 89. Thoughts on cults? And Peter Carroll's answer is, I once stood up and said to a member of the IoT who suggested we form a cult of Baphomet that this is supposed to be the cult for all the people who don't want to be in a cult, and got a round of applause for it. Cults depend on human suggestibility and gullibility. and the need to believe in something or someone and to belong, and often on the need to have something to hate and fight against. Cultism runs on a spectrum from harmless social and special interest group to murderous religious and political ideologies. The fanaticism or cynicism of cult leaders often remains unknown. Some seem to have enough self-belief for both.
Wow. I love that because that's actually, we always have the secret theme that ends up tying the whole episode together. And that's fucking it, ain't it?
What, how cults operate?
Yeah, about how they function on this
The
idea
overwhelming
of suggestibility and people needing a sense to belong, and all
whether it's Korean propaganda or building on Boleskine
or fucking bringing back the good old Eurasia bullshit. Yep.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on cults?
Well, my first criticism of this is that Peter Carroll, someone said something, and then I said something, and then everybody clapped.
Then everyone clapped.
Yeah.
Shit.
Fucking Peter. You're better than this. But yeah, I think the vast majority of cults are, unfortunately, they operate in the same way that virtually all sort of tribal identities do. And the only thing that makes something a cult in the typical sense of being a cult is that it's just marginal. That's all it comes down to. That's the only difference. That's it. That's the only difference that we have, is that if you're David Koresh at Waco, you're a cult. If you're the Catholic Church, you're a church. If you're
Heaven's Gate,
if you're Heaven's Gate,
you're a cult. If you're Scientology, depends who you ask, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. And and like I said, in the
then
mechanisms,
it's also the difference of Scientology has been around for less than 100 years.
Yeah. You want to talk about people being good magicians by taking motherfuckers' money? Look no further. What about you? What do you think about cults?
I think Jack Parsons really, really screwed the pooch. That's my thought on cults. You fucked up, Jackie. But no, I wholeheartedly agree. Even going back to 2 episodes ago with the cult of Saturn.
Oh God!
The real defining aspect of a cult is mostly fanaticism and size. Is that if you have a huge group of fanatics, you're not a cult. You're a political movement, or you're a church, or you're a prevailing worldview and ideology. This, that, and the other. It's only when you're a small time sort of group of fanatics that you're a cult. I think cults are as fascinating as they are scary. Mm-hmm. I think that cults might be rare, but cult behavior is everywhere. And
who makes propaganda and who believes it?
Everybody and everybody.
All right.
For the record, that is from an Over the Edge episode called Who Are the Big Guns? And you should just listen to the intro for that. It's fascinating.
It is some truly fascinating shit. All right. Well, here's our palate cleanser. How goes the work?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. Mostly, I mean, it's the work is going fine. I just don't have anything particularly great. I mean, I stopped smoking, so I did some minor tricks to sort of keep myself from going into a berserker rage at nicotine withdrawals. But it's trudging along. I'm doing a lot of looking for inspiration and attempting to re-enchant my world. I think I said something similar in the last episode. But I'm doing stuff. I'm keeping busy. Just I wish one of these days I'm gonna have like something really radical to say, but right now it's trudging along. What about you?
Oh, I'm dealing with something that is common to all of us, whether we want to act like it or not, just when failure. And I suppose it's the old thing of like, you only fail when you stop trying, but there's a point where you go, I'm not going to try anymore either, because this is, if it's taking this much work to get this thing done, maybe I need to reevaluate what I'm actually trying to get done and why I want it done. But I'm okay. Other than that, I'm still doing the things. I'm still working with the Enochian stuff again, because that's just something that I haven't gone to in a while, and it's a deep, deep well.
I hear you. For the record, there is something to be said about taking the L and taking it gracefully.
Well, yeah, and I mean, especially when it's, I mean, I guess it's different when it's on your own terms as well. It's not like holding out hope that this one little thing was going to happen and then it doesn't happen, so then you're just crushed. You're like, oh no, I fucked up and I'm never going to be able to fix it again. It's different when it's an overarching sort of thing where you're like seeing the trends and you're getting results, and then you, after all the work you've put into it, you're like, I can't keep doing this because it's just not working well enough.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's even like in the simplest terms, acknowledging that maybe I could get this to work with magic, but maybe realizing that what you wanted wasn't quite the same thing as the goal you were going for.
Yeah, that's another way of looking at it too. The important thing is just to not be disenchanted and disillusioned by failure, I think. Learn from things. Do better.
When you lose, don't lose the lesson. His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Fail and learn to fail better. Well, and with that, this has been Chaos Magic News, the only cult that wants you to think for yourself. Now everybody clap.
Please clap.
As always, if you too are disillusioned with the overall state of the occult community, you can fix it by developing a parasocial relationship with two chattering, nonsense spouting assholes at chaosmagicnews.com.
That's
you can also
right.
find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Chaos Magic News. And please check out our main site, chaosmagicnews.com, where we've got articles, interviews, links to the podcast, and whatever else we feel like throwing up that week.
Mr. Gray with an A, would you like the last word?
No, I would not.
That's not how this works. You don't get to say no. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Suck my fucking dick. I don't know. You always say something like, bye, thanks for listening. Where it's like, hey, bro, you get fucked. Now that you're done listening to this podcast, I hope you get hit by a truck.